So I wasn't planning on making this flavor. But then I saw this comment saying that I have to use soy sauce and lemongrass next time and see how good it is. And I just kept thinking about it, because soy sauce and jerky is pretty normal around here. That's a pretty staple kind of ingredient. But lemongrass, that's not super common for us. In fact, I don't know if I've ever used it. Plus, here's the thing. Lemongrass is bright, almost citrusy. So I like the idea, but it's almost too simple. So I want to turn it up a notch and maybe give it a little bit of kick. So now what I want to know is, does that fresh aromatic punch actually work when it's mixed in with a little bit of heat? Well, you and I are about to find out. All right, so today we're building lemongrass chili beef jerky. This is a recipe straight out of our comment section. I'll be honest, I like it when you guys push flavors we don't normally run. It kind of forces us to think about balance a little differently than we usually do. Plus, if this misses, it's not just on me. It's on both of us. Okay, so lemongrass isn't a background ingredient. It's bright, it's aromatic. It can take over if you're not careful. On paper, this leans savory and sharp, but that soy sauce is gonna bring that salt and the depth. And then we're gonna put a little brown sugar in to kind of smooth that out. And the ginger and garlic give it warmth. Finally, the chili paste. That's what's gonna kick this up a notch. Now the goal here is layered flavor, savory first, a touch of sweetness, that citrus lift, and finally, a little bit of heat to kick in. But texture still matters most here, so I want a clean bend, a nice tear, and a good jerky chew. So let's get into it. Into the blender goes soy sauce and brown sugar first. That is our base here. Salty, it's deep, and just enough sweetness to round the edges. Then I'm gonna mince up some lemongrass, that goes in next. And this is exactly why I like using the blender here. Even if your knife work is decent, the Ninja takes it down to almost a paste. That's gonna really matter here on this recipe. You don't want little stringy pieces all in this jerky. Blended smooth, it just kind of melts right into the marinade. Then in goes the garlic and shallots. These are really gonna heighten the smell here. Grated ginger follows, and that's where you start to get that warm, almost spicy note in your nose before you even taste the stuff. After that, rice vinegar for a pop and a little chili paste for the heat. You can actually see the color change here. That tells me every strip here should get a little bit of heat. Black pepper goes in last, kind of deepen that back end bite. I think that's really important in jerky. Now, if you want the exact measurements and the full breakdown, it'll be in the description below. Everything's listed down there. Now, lid on and we blend it up. A few solid pulses, then let it run until everything's fully integrated. You don't want sugar grit, you don't want floating chunks, you just want a smooth, loose marinade. All right, I already got the beef thawed and ready to go. If you don't know, I make so much jerky around here. I usually keep pre-sliced top round in the freezer, specifically for recipes like this. When a flavor idea hits, I don't want to wait and go get meat and then start making it. I want to move now. So I keep this stuff ready to go at a moment's notice. Top round here is naturally lean, which is exactly what we want for jerky. You don't usually want heavy fat seams. You don't want thick fat caps. That means we should get that firm, dry bite instead of anything greasy or soft on the back end. All right, now that everything's separated and sitting loose in the bowl, here comes in the marinade. I'm pouring that blended mixture right over the top, and immediately you can smell it. The lemongrass jumps out first there. It's bright and it's fresh, and then the soy kind of follows right behind it. Now it's time to roll up your sleeves and get your hands in there. I'm working the marinade in there, lifting and folding the strips so every surface gets fully coated here. This is really what you want. Do not half-ass this step. You don't want pockets hiding underneath. You don't want any dry spots. You don't want any bare spots. No pieces folded together, none of them stuck together. Make sure everything is fully encapsulated in that marinade. Once it's fully coated, throw a lid on it and seal it up tight. Then throw it in the fridge. I'm gonna leave it in for 24 to 48 hours. The longer it sits, the more flavor it gets. Now, we just wait. All right, it's been 48 hours later. Let's pop the lid off here and see what happened. First thing that hits me is the aroma. It's not super sharp anymore. The lemongrass is definitely mellowed out a bit and it's kind of folded into that soy and ginger. The color's definitely deepened also. Like the beef here is way darker, almost lacquered looking from the sugar. Most of that marinade really soaked into the meat. That's exactly what you want. You don't want a whole bowl full of fluids left when you're done. Now, let's get these racked up and into the dehydrator. First off, we're not laying these flat on the racks like usual. We're gonna hang dry these today. I'm taking stainless steel skewers and piercing each strip near the top. I'll get as many strips on that skewer as I can, making sure none of the pieces are touching so we get plenty airflow all the way around. Then after that, we get a few stainless steel S-hooks and then hook them onto the underside of the dehydrator racks. Hanging jerky this way completely changes the texture. I know I'm gonna get a bunch of people in the comments telling me this doesn't make a difference, but it absolutely does. I'm telling you right now, hang drying gives you a different texture and mouthfeel. And once they're all hanging, double check to make sure that none of them are touching. You really want a lot of airflow around every piece here. Airflow is everything. Once the jerky making machine's all loaded up, I'm gonna set it up to 167 degrees Fahrenheit. That temperature is hot enough to kill all the bacteria on the meat and efficiently drive most of the moisture out of the meat. Now, shut that door up. I'll set the timer. I don't know where this is gonna land, somewhere between 2 and 5 hours. I'm gonna do my first check at about 2 hours in. Kind of check the texture there and see where we go from there. I'm expecting somewhere between 2 and 5 hours total, but I don't really care so much about the clock as much as I do about the look and the feel of the jerky. All right, it's been 2 hours in on this one. Yeah, it's starting to crisp up. It's on its way, but it has at least another hour or so in it for sure. I'm gonna put this back in for an hour. I'll see you in an hour checked in. All right, 3 hours total in. I think this is it. You can tell by the white fibers, it's still a little pliable, a little crunchy on the edge. I think this is it. 3 hours in, I'm calling this one done at 3 hours. All right, this one's definitely different. Lemongrass and chili beef jerky isn't your typical heavy soy, Worcestershire, smoke bomb kind of jerky profile. So the question here is that lemongrass brightness actually work on beef? Okay, the very first thing I notice on this is the brightness. There's definitely some brightness from that citrus and the lemongrass and a little bit of the ginger. I mean, it feels like a lighter flavor profile than what I'm used to with all the soy and Worcestershire. It's not sweet, it's not really heavy either. It's just kind of clean, if that makes any sense. It leans more like herby and maybe earthy than it does like super bold and punchy, but it's really interesting. The lemongrass definitely feels integrated into the flavor profile, kind of into the chew, so even when it hits the surface, it doesn't feel like it's just sprinkled on. Even though you can see some of it here on the surface here, it definitely has some of that flavor incorporated into the jerky. It's present the whole time. Heat-wise, honestly, I was expecting more. I mean, we put a fair amount of chili paste in here. This is maybe a 2 or a 3 out of 10. I mean, it's kind of there as a backdrop, but I think like an aggressive black pepper could bite harder than this. On the next batch I make, I'd probably bump the chili up a little bit more because I think it could benefit the flavor profile with a little bit more heat on that backbone. And there's not a ton of sweetness in this one either. I actually think a small amount of sugar in here is doing some important work. Like, I can't really point to it exactly, but I think the sugar is helping bring that flavor profile, kind of elevate it a little bit. I think if I left the sugar out of this one, definitely the flavor profile probably would have been flattened a little bit. So it's probably really getting some help out of the sugar. And the finish is clean. Like, there's a little bit of garlic, a little bit of ginger, not a lot of oiliness. It's not like coating your mouth or anything. So it doesn't linger in a heavy way. So I'm okay with the aftertaste. And texture-wise, I'd really put this one right in the middle. It's not super tender. It's not tough. Maybe slightly on the drier side if I had to put it on that scale. Now, when we hang dry these, sometimes we do get these little surface crunch kind of on the edges. It's not like hard all the way through, but I really like the chew. And all you hang drying naysayers out there, I'm telling you, look at how this stuff shapes up. When you hang dry this, it really curls up around the edges in many different ways. So the chew on this is completely different than if we laid it out flat into slabs. So I really like the chew of this one. So if you gravitate towards more savory, kind of herby forward flavors like our rosemary garlic beef jerky or our pastrami jerky, or even our Jamaican jerk chicken jerky, this one here is gonna make sense to you. It's not sweet, it's not loud, it's definitely a savory layered flavor. And if you got any thoughts on how much heat you'd want in something like this, drop it below. Should it have more heat in a lemongrass chili jerky, or do you expect it to be a little mild? That's the fun part. We actually tweak our recipes going forward based on the feedback that we get and that we have on a new flavor. And we make new flavors all the time, and most of them are on your suggestion. So if you have any ideas, anything at all, drop it in the comments below. Let me know what kind of flavor profile we should be making. You want any changes to this? Let me know what those should be. I'll incorporate that into our next version. Well, that's it for this lemongrass chili beef jerky recipe. I really like it. I think you should try to make it. I'll see you next time in our test kitchen.